It is Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here, Patrick Reusse with me as usual. Patrick, lots to get to. It is late August. It's starting to become football season. Gopher football opens on Thursday against Nebraska. You had a column, a little bit of Gopher and Nebraska football history, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. Maybe a tiny bit of Vikings talk, some international basketball talk, I sure hope. Maybe some Gopher volleyball talk. Start though, Patrick, with the Twins. It is still summer, at least technically for a little while here. I gave up a little bit on that game Sunday because we had a lot of us other stuff going on in the family. They were down like 5-0. The next thing I know, Royce Lewis hits a grand slam. They're running all around the bases trying to score and not scoring, and they prevail. You see games going to 13 much anymore with the new extra inning rules, but they win 7-6 and 13 on the unlikeliest outcome of all, a Michael Taylor walk. He doesn't walk very much. It's hard to walk him, but I guess when you throw 4 out of the zone after previously having control problems, that is going to happen. So they're still 6 up. They won 3 out of 4 against the Rangers, who have a good record but aren't playing very well right now. They just snapped that losing streak Saturday, but got another one going yesterday. But they overall they've got to feel pretty good about where they got to, especially after that frustrating Milwaukee series.
Yes, and they got Cleveland coming in, and if they win 2 out of 4 against Cleveland, then it's going to be a pretty clear sailing. Although they do have they got how many left? 7 left with 6 left with Cleveland, 7 left with Cleveland, and it's
6
all
with
in
Cleveland, yeah.
and it's all in the next 10 days, right?
Correct, yeah. They go down to, it was like Texas, Cleveland, Texas, Cleveland. It was
yeah.
like a
I yesterday I said this on Twitter. Tom Kelly had the 4 theories. A game. You beat them, they beat you. You beat yourself, they beat themselves. Those are the 4 things.
yes.
Yesterday, the Twins beat themselves and still won. So that was amazing. God,
Does that count for two? Does that count for 2 wins in the standings if they beat
I don't
themselves
know.
and beat their opponent?
We hear a lot about the shadows, and Dick and Perky were talking about it yesterday, but it was obvious in the last couple of innings that those guys, nobody could see where the baseball was, and the Twins, Taylor didn't swing because he probably knew he had no chance. And all of a sudden, this pitcher who throws 100 but has been very erratic as part of an erratic Texas bullpen ends up as that bat went on, he came increasingly farther away from the strike zone to walk in the run. But some of that Solano I saw didn't take responsibility for one of the stupidest base running plays I've ever seen. He's trying to just stay at second base. You got to look at the play. They have no chance to get the runner, and you run over and they have no chance. The runner at first base, the run's going to score. The only way they can get it out is if you run over and stand next to the guy and let him touch you with the baseball, which is what Solano did. Now, he did get a hit to tie the game earlier. He's a pretty good hitter, but I don't think he's much of an athlete. And then I did. Gallo thought he was going to advance on a sacrifice fly.
It was a foul fly, right? Yeah.
It's fly that would have been a foul pop up to the end of the dugout where the guy from Texas, first base Texas, our catcher was it, caught the ball over there, and he went wandering off. And he had a quote in the paper today saying he thought he'd scamper over to third. Scampering and Joey Gallo, I don't same category. But anyway, they played. They did a lot of things in extra innings to avoid, 3 straight innings. You come up in the last inning, all you got to do is get that guy from second to third, and they didn't do it, and then they finally walked in and ended it. 4 hours and 20 minutes. Old time baseball, right
Old
there.
Time baseball. Yeah,
I wasn't there. I called Phil Miller about in the 12th inning, and I said, "We knew you had to be covering the game. He was the human rain delay in the past.
Yes.
There was a rain delay. Phil was covering it, and those 3 hour and 40-minute games, he always had those. But that was That was incredible for that length of game. I mean, that game was dawdling along going along at a great pace once Keiko got in there for a while, but it still ended up being over 4 hours. What interested me this weekend, and I don't know it, but their crowds were pretty lousy all weekend.
Yeah.
They only had 23,000 on Thursday night when they had that concert with a well-known country western singer. And you got in free. You got to the concert free if you wanted to for the ticket. And then they were under 25,000 basically all week. No good. The crowds weren't good Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I thought they'd been drawn pretty well. And last week, their attendance was pretty dang good. And I don't know what happened. It can't be the state fair that's beating you out, is it? I mean,
Maybe a little bit of it, but yeah, I mean, it's
not good crowds at all. I was very surprised that they were. I was seeing a level of enthusiasm, I thought, but not this weekend. That was pretty. I'm sure that was pretty disappointing attendance. And with Cleveland coming to town here, if that was an indication, they probably won't have many people there watching either. Because as Guardians are now basically their arch rival in the division,
yes.
But it's not much of an arch rivalry. I'll admit that. So, with both teams being as mediocre as they are, but the only way you can get yourself in trouble now is losing 3 out of 4, right? Then that gives Cleveland. Then that gives it is a 4-gamer, isn't it?
I think it's just 3. I think it's just 3. Let me double check though. I'll double check.
Well, I think the only way you can get in trouble here is I thought it was a 4-gamer, but I guess it's a 3-gamer.
No, it's just 3 today, tomorrow, and Wednesday.
Okay, so you can you'd have to get swept, right, to get yourself in trouble. If you get swept. Now Cleveland scored 10 runs.
Saw that
yesterday, which is impossible with that lineup they're playing. But I don't know. They haven't rolled over dead yet. Look at the pitching. Look at their pitchers though for this series. They're 3 guys you never heard of. They've had to rebuild their rotation considerably because of injuries and Bieber shut down and other things. They've had a lot of injuries,
and they traded a good one away too.
Yeah, they did. And Tristan McKenzie shut down too. I think he's hurt again. So a lot of their good pitchers are. They sent out they took Syndergaard basically took him off somebody's hands to get him back. I don't think they're paying much of his salary, and they try to get 5 innings out of him, and they piece everything together. But everybody's saying this is it for Francona, that he's probably going to resign. I mean, he's probably going to give it up after this year. His health hasn't been good. He's having more health problems. And he's had quite a run there and, winning 2 World Series with the Red Sox and then going to Cleveland and having a dang good run. But he hasn't been healthy lately, and they're going to have a new manager. So this would probably be his last time here.
Didn't they DFA'd Syndergaard, didn't they?
Oh, did they let him go?
Yeah, I think they let him go yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
So,
all right. Because he I didn't see that. He made a start, I know, a couple of days ago. So,
yeah, not great. I mean, they rely so much on their pitching. So if they're banged up there, they just don't have the lineup to compete. And
one thing with them, Clase hasn't been unhittable either this year. He was fantastic before, but he's got a bunch of saves, but he's also got a bunch of blowing saves, and he doesn't throw quite as hard. And they kind of wore him out. You wonder if the Twins might be doing the same thing with Durant.
Yeah, I know he's not been as dominant in the last 30 or 40 games that he was in the first 100. That's for sure. Probably compensating for that though is they've definitely since the break they've been hitting better. The hitting's been more timely. The lineup sure looks better when you add some people to it, including Royce Lewis, who's been really good. And you got to looking it up because it feels like he gets big hits, and obviously had the grand slam yesterday that got them back in the game. 15 for 39 this year with runners in scoring position. That is a 385 average, and OPS over 1,000 with runners in scoring position. Do you look at him yet and say this is a guy who has whatever that is, where he is better or just as good or better when there's guys on base, because that's a fundamentally, it's a hard thing to judge, but it's also a hard thing to do. Like, I don't, because the pitching tends to get better in those situations. He's done it in a small sample size. Do you see Royce Lewis as a guy who just kind of has that to his game, that he is kind of, he wants that moment?
Well, I think it's too early to be sure, but he certainly is giving an indication of that. He takes a much more serious hack than he used to. I mean, he sees himself as a power hitter now, a guy who can, not a guy that's going to hit 30 home runs, but he sees
Yeah.
himself as a guy who's going to hit the ball hard, and he takes a serious swing. I think more so than he did before. I'm not sure that he's improved the fundamentals of his swing. I think he has changed it though to a more powerful swing at the ball, kind of probably the Twins theory. They love home runs, and I don't think he's afraid of those moments. That's for sure. He's a confident athlete, and I never saw him 3-4 years ago. I didn't know about him as a hitter. I didn't think it was a great swing, but he's bigger than he was when he was
He is.
15, 20 pounds bigger, and he's a strong guy. Third base is obviously his position. He's not a shortstop, and I do think that he's a guy that. It's a guy that when he comes up to the plate in a big situation, you're happy it's him. You got on a team that there aren't that many guys that make you happy that they're coming up with a big situation. And I think you're happy it's him. I still think Kirilloff's a better hitter, but if he's ever going to be healthy again, who knows? I see him as a everyday player and probably a 5-hitter, right?
Yeah, that's probably about right. Even, you would like
to have. It's hard to say that though, because they move the way they move. They never play the same guys, the same place, and
right.
But I'd see him as a 5-hitter for the long term. Yeah. So that's I see Kirilloff as a 3-hitter if he was healthy, but he's settled the third base situation and he hasn't gotten hurt, which is. I can see now, though, how he pulls a muscle here once in a while. He's got himself so big, He's got him so big. He's probably more subject to getting hurt than he was. But 2 of those injuries were, knees. So, I like him as a player. He's but then the public likes him. That's they're not in on that many of the Twins, but they're in on him. So, I guess so. I think he's better than I thought he was going to be.
Speaking of guys who get hurt, what are they going to do when and if Buxton is ready? Because the lineup sure functions better when they don't have his, what's been a lot of 0 for 4, 2 strikeout nights in it, and he can rotate the DH. And I think are they going to mess around and play him in center field and kind of switch him and Taylor around, or do you think this just kind of sorts itself out? I was looking at that for like half an hour last week, being like, how does this look when and if he's healthy enough?
He's not your everyday DH anymore. That's for sure.
He can't be.
You can't have him playing against right-handed pitching instead of Julian. You'd rather have Julian's bat in the lineup than his. Is the simple fact of the matter. And I don't know that there was rumors like a week ago, and they were kind of hinting at it. And I was over there, and actually Gladden said to me that he thought they were doing some things with him out in the field. But then I was over there the other day, and he's not doing it. He's not. They're not hitting him fly balls. They're not. Unless they're doing it at 1 PM when nobody's in the ballpark.
Right.
They aren't hitting him fly balls, and he's basically jogging. You don't see him sprinting around in the outfield. So it looks to me like the idea a couple of weeks ago was to, kind of get him moving towards being able to play some in center field. But there's no indication, at least in pregame workouts, that he's any further along to that way than he was a couple of weeks earlier. So I have no idea what they're going to do. I really don't. what's the long-term solution if he
Yeah.
can't? What's he?
Hope he's healthy for the next 6 years.
Let's face it. He's never been a good hitter. He's never. I mean, a good hitter. I mean, he's never good hitter. I mean, great hitter. Never been a. He had he had a run. He's had some runs, but he's not a. He's not a great hitter.
He's never put together a full season at the plate where he's been great. He's had stretches of a month or two, but that's the thing. He's been inconsistent or hurt.
Yeah, and then he's just a. And when he came back, he was so screwed up there for about 4 years with everybody telling him, everybody trying to get in his head and tell him, do this, do that, do this. The one good year he had, he came back and ended up hitting 150 or something. They had to send to the minors, right? Didn't they? Right. So, he's not a. I'm not saying this in the sense of ridicule about his brain power, but he's not a smart hitter. He doesn't. His sense of anticipation of what a pitcher's trying to do to him looks like almost zero to me. So, and then somebody said this to me. He was a lot smarter than me. He makes up his mind before a ball is thrown whether he's going to swing or not, and that's how he ends up swinging at pitches 4 feet outside the zone. And he's not a good. I don't know what they do. I don't know. You can't expect him to eat $75 million.
No,
it was $70 million. But I don't know if he can't play in the field, and he takes away your DH opportunities. I don't know. You can't. What are you gonna? You want to run him out there and bat him eighth as a DH? They got to stop. Here's what they got to stop doing for sure. No matter where they play him, they got to stop hitting him in the middle of the order.
Yeah.
If he's going to hit like this, if this is him, there is no benefit of having him if he's hitting like this and all he can do is DH. So I don't know what you do. It's kind of sad that a guy who is maybe the best athlete in the history of the franchise is unusable, and he's not 30 years old yet, right? Or he just turned 30. Maybe.
Yeah, I think he just turned 30, and they did say Sunday that if and when he does his rehab assignment, they will try some outfield in that assignment. Well, so that's still like that adds layers to. When he can come back too, because if it doesn't go well or if it doesn't look like he's doing that well.
I think they're in a situation where they don't really care. If he can't come back, he's not going to come back. If he can't come back and play some of the outfield, you just got the reality that you have to give him is, hey, you got to earn your opportunity to play for us again because you're hitting 207.
And you know what? You just reminded me of what I wanted to write about today, because remember for so many years they were so dependent on him. Their splits, win-loss splits were so dependent on whether Buxton was in the lineup or not. That's not the case anymore.
No, it's and the great mystery is how he got so pathetic against left-handed pitching. That just tells you that he's completely lost as a hitter. That he's just no idea what he's trying to do, because there's no way in God's green earth that he can be that bad against left-handed pitching, and yet he is. So, I don't know. It's you had Sano become unusable to the point that they let him go. With the Twins, there's no such buyout for Buxton. So,
no.
I don't know where they go. I really don't. They've tried to treat him with great respect here. But they put him on the DL this time, and Rocco was as close to candidate as he could get about 10 days ago, and they said, well, we're going to look him out. Before that, a couple of weeks ago, 10 days ago, he started mentioning September. He basically mentioned when he comes back. He didn't say what he almost made a mistake and said when he comes back in September, but that's what he was saying. They weren't going to bring him back till September. And they are going to send him to St. Paul. And if they if he's, they got to get him to sign off on playing center field, but we'll see. We'll see. It's a great mystery, and it's not like you're sitting around waiting for him to come back. Now,
No.
I'd a lot rather have Kirilloff come back to play first base, or Solano kills himself over there. He's terrible. And how can you have terrible? Last year they had Miranda playing there. He was terrible. And now they got Solano playing there, and he's, I feel sorry for Correa. He has to make these
perfect throws. Yeah.
Playing there, he's taken away that one bouncer that he loves to throw from deep in the hole, and get some outs. I did the great ode to Correa as a defensive shortstop, and then yesterday he kicked one, and he did he looked like he was having some physical problems yesterday. But that heel of his,
they don't need that.
Need him for this series. He's got, with the ailments he's had, and people like to, get on him because his production isn't what you hope. He's got 100 at bats more than anybody else in the team.
He plays, and he gives you the defense usually. Yesterday notwithstanding, so
he had a couple of terrible at bats too. He must not have been able to see the ball. I don't know what it was. So anyway, they're still a flawed team, but they're better than they were. They're better than they were.
I think we can say that.
It's the All-Star break. They've been better than they were. Once in a while, they'll just go out and lay an egg. But next three games are, beat Cleveland 2 out of 3, and it's pretty well over.
I would say so.
MGM Wine and Spirits is the choice for savings, service, and a great selection of spirits, pre-mixed cocktails, wines, and of course, ice-cold beers and hard seltzers. With over 30 locations throughout the Twin Cities and beyond, there's an MGM near you. Head to mgmwineandspirits.com to find a convenient location in your area. Get social. Follow MGM on Facebook and Instagram for all the latest news and trends. Make great moments with MGM Wine and Spirits, your locally owned and operated choice for over 50 years. Save time, save money. Shop MGM.
The opposite of better than they were, Patrick. Let's move on to Gopher football and Nebraska specifically. I was just, before we started talking, I was looking up some Nebraska history because I know you wrote about kind of deeper Nebraska history over the weekend. Nebraska hasn't had we keep talking about Nebraska getting back to what they were. They haven't had a winning season since 2016. It's been a while. Like we're removed. Like the Scott Frost era was obviously terrible. Mike Riley had one year that could qualify as good, 9-4. But that was in 2016. Like, you got to go back to Bo Pelini, who they couldn't wait to get rid of before you get any consistent winners. Bo Pelini went 9-4 or 10-4 in all 7 of his seasons, and they couldn't wait to get rid of him. And ever since then, they've been awful. What's going on out there? And is this just Nebraska's new reality? I mean, what is this?
The one year they made it to the championship game, Wisconsin beat them 70-30 or something. I don't remember. And but Pelini was a pretty good recruiter. He was just a loose cannon, Everybody, I don't know, for the fans, the administration couldn't stand him.
Right.
He was a wacky fella. Ended up at Youngstown State, for goodness sakes. And but they were sure that Scott Frost was going to be the guy, the former quarterback, and he laid a complete egg. They're worse than they've ever been. One thing they did, they tied their wagon to the Martinez family as their quarterbacks, and those guys. Yes, it's the modern, in modern football, you got to have somebody who can throw the ball from A to B, don't you?
Yes.
And terrible. They could run, they'd put up some yards, but I don't know. They have a hard time. Even Tom Rudd, the guy I talked to, is a great guy. Bloomington and one of the Minnesota Twins from the 70s. He wasn't willing to concede that it's impossible for them ever to get back to what they were, but it's impossible for them to ever get back to where they were. It's just, they were doing things that first of all, they had the New Jersey pipeline for forever, and then Wisconsin kind of came, and and the New Jersey pipeline for great athletes. There was always some suspicion if they were using name, image, and likeness money way before it was illegal and things like that. But they were amazing. It is amazing. It was 35-year run, 40-year run, almost 35-year run, 40-year run. Devaney came in 63, I think, and
62. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
And turned it around immediately.
Yes.
Didn't he?
Yeah, he was 9-2 in his first year, and then they, next year they went to the Orange Bowl.
And it was
won the 62. They won something called the Gotham Bowl. I don't even know what that is.
Yes, that was one of the greatest signs I've ever seen in my life. Didn't they? They beat Miami, right?
It doesn't say here. I'm just going to look at. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page.
I was at the great game, the greatest college football game I ever saw, Nebraska and Miami, when Miami beat them in the Orange Bowl, and they showed some guy, some Miami fan way up in the boondocks. He had a little sign that said "Avenge the Gotham Bowl."
Okay.
Was one of the great signs I ever saw. That's great.
Yeah, you're right. From 62 through the end of the Osborne run in 97, and even after that, they were still pretty good with Solich for a few years.
Which was okay. He wasn't. They fired him, and then fire Solich, but don't hire Bill Callahan,
right?
Like a idiot. And that was the start of it, didn't they?
It was, yeah.
Been 20 years of mediocrity or less. Now,
now it's less. Yeah.
Gophers, Fleck has dominated them, right?
Yes.
Four in a row.
Yes.
Really think as a game, this is the season for this Gopher team, don't you?
You got to have this one. Yeah. Home game against a team that's not been good in the conference. Yeah.
No idea. I mean, Rule just came in, after getting fired at Carolina. We know, he was a good, he was at Baylor where you could do anything you wanted to, and to get in players. And I have no idea what their recruiting like was. Their recruiting wasn't highly rated as far as freshmen were concerned, but I don't know how they did in transfer portal. But that's a game that Gophers got to be favored, I would think. 4 or 5 points.
So. Yeah, let me look at that. I'll look at that quick. But yeah, I mean, it feels like you're right. Just because you look at their schedule this year, and we've written about this, the second toughest in the whole country, because you've got some decent non-conference with North Carolina and some of those, and then you got to play Ohio State, Michigan, both on the schedule. I mean, it's a big schedule this year, second toughest.
Yes, it is. Which PJ mentions all the time. He didn't mention last year that it was the second easiest in the country.
No, he doesn't.
He didn't get into that collection of nothingness that they played last year. I mean, he didn't. I'd like to get him up and say, the Big Ten West was never as rotten as it was last year, and somehow we didn't win it. But this year we have the second toughest schedule in the world. Yes. That's what I'd like to hear, but I don't think he's going to say that. So
Gophers 7.5 point favorites.
Really? Whew. Yeah. They think much of Nebraska. PJ bragging about, I took a shot at him on Twitter, bragging about selling out the stadium, something we've never done. All right, let's see how much red's in there before you pat yourself on the back too hard. But this team is really hard to figure because they're coming off 2 really mediocre recruiting years, maybe 3, but with the transfer portal, you don't know what these reinforcements they brought in. They've done pretty well with the transfer portal, with getting guys from the lower level of college football who can play. So
yes.
See if that's and their receiving core is good. So if this guy can throw it all, it will be interesting to see if they've certainly given indications that they're changing. They're not going to be, they're not going to play down to another team's standards by just, the reason they lost to Iowa last year is they wouldn't throw any passes.
Right.
They let Iowa with that rotten offense stay in the game because they didn't put any pressure on them. They ran the ball, and tried to beat them, 10-7. And it doesn't sound like it's going to be that way. They're going to try to throw the ball around a little bit, which would really improve things, I think.
I don't know what PJ is going to do, though, when he gets in those, tight games. His tendency has still been so much. We know what he is over the years. He wants to run the ball. Is he going to, it's one thing to trust your quarterback when it's 0-0 in the first quarter, when it's 20-17 in the fourth quarter, and you're trying to protect a lead? Is he really going to be able to throw the ball there and go for the kind of game clinching score, or is he going to get conservative? That's what I want to see.
Yeah, that's true. Nebraska plays a 5. The permanent defense, at least rules, has been other places was 5 defensive backs and 3-3-5. So if you start running, obviously they put another lineman in there, but it will be interesting to see if he tries to throw the ball against that defense. But Thursday night, that's become the traditional opening of the football season, not only for the Gophers, but also for high school football in the state. Because everybody, about 10 years ago, they decided, let's play these games on Thursday night because everybody wants to go to the lake on Friday. So Labor Day weekend. So we don't have the crowds that we do for high school football. But I was looking for high school games to go to for Friday, and the vast majority of the games in high school are played on Thursday night. So, although some of them are playing Friday, but I did. That's kind of a sad thing that the Gophers are always kicking off at the same time the high school season is, because you want high school football in Minnesota to be kind of joined at the hip with the Gophers, but anyway. That's it. There were more games last weekend in college football than I imagined.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame and Navy. You didn't see any film of it. You didn't see any tape of the crowd in Dublin, did you?
No.
The streets of Dublin were unbelievable. 1,000 Notre Dame fans. They still come out of the woodwork down there, even though they're with the 20-team Big Ten and the 20-team SEC,
they're
going to be never more irrelevant in football than they are now. But speaking of people, Nebraska remembers the good old days. Nobody remembers the good old days like the Notre Dame fans. It's incredible.
The older they get, the better they were. The couple more things before we go. Gopher volleyball team opened over the weekend. They beat TCU and Baylor. The Baylor win probably more impressive because that's a ranked team, and they swept them at the Maturi Pavilion. The Keegan Cook era officially underway. They will get a bigger test, though, Patrick, on Tuesday. They host number 1 Texas at the Maturi Pavilion tomorrow.
What time are they kicking that game off?
That is, I believe, a 7 p.m. start on Tuesday.
Ooh, that's quite the. It's amazing, the schedule, and it started with McCutcheon, obviously, and actually, I think all goes back to Ebert.
Yeah.
They've always played. When you see the other non-conference schedules, and then you see volleyball, it's like two nations, because they always. Who's great that will play us, and we'll go on the road to play them because we don't care, because we got to get ready for the Big Ten, and then everybody else is looking for those wins so they can, prop up mediocre records. But volleyball's it's the best sport. As a neutral situation, it's the best sport on campus. And the Big Ten being Big Ten way better in volleyball than it is in any other sport, and as far as national status, and it's a great sport, and Texas is it's also a transport portal sport. They had a lot of transfers even before the portal was out there. So, and here's the deal: if you're a great setter, and if you're coming out of high school as a great setter, and Wisconsin's looking for a setter and the Gophers aren't, you're going to Wisconsin. It's not. Right. I grew up as a Gopher fan. You're looking for. Mom and Dad have had you in these highfalutin programs at a very cost for about 6 years.
Yes.
I'm not going to go there and just sit. It's a weird sport in that the recruiting more than anywhere is established by what the other team has at that position. That the power teams, the 25 the 25 power teams in the country. That's the way recruiting goes. I mean, the kid from the setter that from the Twin Cities here that won the national championship with Wisconsin. I did a column on her.
I can't remember either right now. It's escaping me, but yeah.
She loved the Gophers, but she went to Wisconsin because they had Samantha Seliger Swenson
yeah.
for years. So, and they don't leave the court. They play every point. So it's a weird recruiting thing because, but he's got the athletes, that's for sure. He lost that Booth, which is a bad loss. She's a great player, but she was here with Wisconsin. But they brought in a couple others to replace her. But this was a big time hire. I think a lot of us were afraid they were going to do it. Coyle's, interest in football and nothing else. It was you wondered if he was going to go big. But I think McCutcheon got him, this guy, that lined him up and said, "Hey, this is the guy to hire." So, yeah, I'm sure the place will be jumping Tuesday night.
After that, they go, you were talking about their schedule. Their next 3 are on the road against number 11, Florida, number 9, Oregon, and number 3, Stanford. So this is not they do not just ease into the season as they might in other sports. It is a power pack schedule.
Yeah, they don't really care because they know they gotta finish in the top 3 or 4 in the Big Ten, and then they'll get a good seed and they'll get to play in the first 2 games.
Yep.
That's if they lose in 4 sets to Stanford, it doesn't hurt their rating.
No, it's number 3 team in the country, and from what I was talking about with Jeff Day last week, sounds like Stanford is kind of, even though they're number 3, they could be the favorite this year once things all get sorted out. Patrick, final thing.
I have one question. What's going to happen to Stanford volleyball when their big rival is Wyoming in the mountains?
they'll find a soft landing. I'm not worried about Stanford and Cal. They're going to be okay. I'm sure they're going to figure themselves out at some point. But
ACC
is crazy. It's the other coast. It's the Atlantic Coast Conference. These are Pacific Coast teams. It's ridiculous, but they'll figure something out. I don't think we have Vikings to talk about right now. We're going to let the roster sort itself out. I don't think you're terribly interested in should they have traded for Trey Lance or not. I don't even know if Trey Lance can play, but he goes to the Cowboys, which was kind of weird to me.
Well, they did need a third quarterback, but I looked, they only had 2 on the roster, but I don't like his arm action. He's got the big, long arm. He doesn't I don't know how the 49ers could be that wrong, though, to give up what they gave for a kid. And then really, I mean, if they think they're going to see the same Brock Purdy next year, they're crazy. This season, they're crazy. Look for them to be a big flop.
Interesting.
Yep. But I don't. Trey Lance obviously wasn't the answer for him, to say the least. So
we got to end with Rudy Gobert and his France team bounced right away. They lose to Latvia in the FIBA World Cup of basketball. A lot of Wolves playing in this thing, though. They got Kyle Anderson and Nikhil Alexander-Walker playing for Canada. You got Kat playing for the Dominican team, and then of course Anthony Edwards for the U.S. team, and then Rudy. Maybe the best thing that could have happened, Rudy losing right away because now he can rest up those knees for the start of camp in about a month.
I saw some tape of him at the end of the game when the Latvia scored. He had this shocked look on his face. He couldn't believe it. He took one shot, one field goal attempt. They don't. The box score on ESPN doesn't list the minutes played, so I can't tell you how many minutes he played. But 9 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, 3 steals, 2 assists. He contributed, but yeah, that's not. They let Evan Fournier do all the scoring, and they lost to Latvia 88-86, and they are out. I am sure that deep in their soul, the Timberwolves are happy, right?
Yes, I think so too. But yeah, this thing it's got a lot of Wolves players in it, so I'm kind of keeping an eye on it. And Canada's done well, good for them, and Cat's done well with the Dominican team. So we'll see how that all shakes out. I'm sure we'll have plenty more to get to next week. We'll have a Gopher football game to talk about. We'll have a Vikings game to get ready for because that season starts in a couple weeks. And we'll see how the Twins do against Cleveland and Texas and Cleveland again here.
I got to ask you one question. Do you approve NBA of the NFL having an extra week off before the opener? I don't like it. play your exhibition games a week later and then start the season. That's
seems like it's just a way to ease into this 18 game schedule eventually. It's like, hey, well, there's that open week. Let's just take that week. I don't like it. It feels like I don't like extra.
Cut the roster, start the season. Let's go.
I don't like extra weeks off. I don't like when there's that 2-week gap for the college hockey championships. I just play. Just go. It's fine. You can play. Yeah.
All right, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Goodbye.